Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. You could have got a legitimate Gibson Les Paul standard for $475 if you happened to bet on Reverb at the right time. Does that pique your interest? Yeah, I can guess that you're a little bit skeptical, and you have every right to be. Take a look at this. What has happened to this thing? Let's go ahead and check it out. So at $475, obviously there's going to be something wrong with this guitar, but just how much is wrong with this? A lot. Okay, so on our body, we can clearly see, okay, we got a big crack right here, a missing chunk of binding, some finish coming off in multiple locations. This looks to me like more of a formal crack, whereas some of this other stuff might just be finish checking. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, what kind of fate did this thing actually meet? It must have been a disgruntled significant other or a stage guitar that got smashed in the heat of the moment. It's kind of hard to tell. And hey, a double cutaway Les Paul? Yeah, those things existed. There's been various runs here and there, but the P-90 variant is actually fairly uncommon. If you want to learn some more in-depth details about them, you could check out this video where I dedicated a whole rock or not segment to this particular version of this guitar. But in clean shape, this is like a $1,800 guitar, plus or minus 200 bucks. So despite everything that's wrong with it, 500 bucks does not seem that bad for a legit Gibson. But is it a legit Gibson? I'm sure some people were kind of sketched out by this, seeing metric studs on here. That just looks like a replacement part to me, because everything else about this guitar, so far anyways, looks all right. I'm skeptical that the pickups are original, though. Those pickup covers don't quite look right. But these are full-bodied Les Pauls. They still have the carved top. They just have an additional cutaway right here, kind of like a solid body 335, like a 335S that you can check out videos about right here, except for, these have the traditional binding and everything going on. But what's really interesting about these is take a look at how much room you actually have in between your pickups on that. Maybe it's just because I've been demoing humbucker and dog ear P-90s lately that just seems very large, but master volume, master tone with a three-way toggle switch kind of PRS style. And from this photo, we can see the fretboard actually looks all right. Our headstock doesn't look too bad. We're missing the truss rod cover, which usually doesn't bode well for not having a headstock repair, but let's flip it over to the backside. Oh. Apparently, this whole thing was just cracked in half, because you can still see a very, very visible crack line. And that's not just like a body seam coming apart. Sometimes that will happen if it's a multi-piece body, but those are perfectly straight. Well, at least from Gibson anyways. So if you see something that's kind of jaggedy, you know that is definitely in the wood. And then what is this? We're just missing a chunk out of this guitar. Apparently somebody just put like a piece of plywood or something in there to patch that up. Okay. Now we're getting to that close-up of the headstock shot. Yes, indeed, there's been some sort of a repair right there. But hey, at least the truss rod itself appears to be in good shape. The Gibson logo's not all beat up or scratched out or anything like sometimes you'll find on these absolutely trashed examples. It's looking like our tuners have been replaced, though. These are like aftermarket Schallers. Yep, or something very similarly branded. They don't look like the highest quality tuners, to be honest. And our serial number's kind of goofy looking. 110, looks like 110. Just a bunch of ones and zeros. It is legit though, for 2011, 101st day of the year, or whatever that digit is, and then it's kind of hard to read the rest of that. And you can see the original tuners on here would have been like Klusons. And then, whoa! I love this headstock repair. It's inventive, I'll give them that. So it looks like they spliced some additional wood into there, but you've got a crack running all the way up and down right here, which is something I don't think I've ever seen. Again, you've got like the wings on the headstock that sometimes come apart, but that is right along the same lines where the tuners were installed. So that might actually just be a case of a finish check because somebody tightened these screws down too much. You always got to be careful when installing new tuners on a guitar. That's why I think it's better just to have a professional install new tuners, unless you're fitting the exact same footprint, you don't have to drill any new holes. Because then, if something like that does happen, as long as it's an insured guy, you should be covered for any type of repair that would need to be made. But yeah, that is not the cleanest headstock repair in the world I've ever seen. And then, to make matters even worse, not only has the body been cracked in multiple locations, not only has the headstock been snapped off and repaired, but even the heel of this guitar, like that, this thing must have been absolutely beaten. Because Les Pauls, they're pretty darn chunky. Like, you see this happen on SGs, especially the vintage ones, quite often. But a Les Paul with a heel break? That is insane. Somebody had to have taken this thing and just really smashed the headstock good enough that the force broke the neck there and here, and then continued to dismantle the body. Like, this guitar has a story to tell. Not a good story, more like a horror story, but a story nonetheless. And this part just looks worse than it actually is because you're actually seeing the maple cap exposed right here because the binding is just missing. That kind of threw me off when I was first looking at this one. And the heel break, it doesn't look too bad. Like, it was a pretty clean break, so as far as repairing that, it was probably okay. You've got pretty much straight lines. Now when they get all jagged and you have to make a jigsaw puzzle out of the remaining pieces, yeah, that's when it gets a little bit sketchy. So, let's see, what has the seller got for us? What kind of story? The body was broken in 2 places. Repair piece put on back. Okay, so I think that is referring to this. So they've glued this back together, and then this missing chunk, they put some new wood. Okay, we saw that the first time. All repairs done by our local luthier. Now granted, you can't judge a luthier on how he repairs a guitar because you don't know what kind of budget he was given to work with. If I took this to a place and a guy called himself a luthier and this is what he delivered me, no, that's like guitar tech, you know, just a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience repairing guitars. Sure, this might just play perfectly fine and he wasn't given the budget to really clean it up, make it look nice. But in my opinion, none of these repairs look exactly professional. But then again, no finish touch-up budget was given for this, you know, just by judging on what we can see. I mean, if you were to refinish this top and repair this binding section, it probably would be okay. This just doesn't quite look right. Normally when you do a spline by adding new wood, you do 2 oval-shaped ones right here. Because when you repair a headstock, you have a few different options. You can just glue it and let it be. If you want a very strong repair, you put these splines in it. So in order to install the splines, they kind of repair the headstock the best they can, and if you have missing wood, that's when this is best used. They just take a router bit and they route some out of the neck. And then they perfectly fit these wooden blocks in here, and then they sand them down before they do that refinish. It's kind of like a stitch in a way, like if you're comparing it to the human anatomy. And then you can refinish that area whatever way you want. Some people choose just to let it be a part of the guitar's history, like this one. You can still see it's there, but it's a perfect patch-up job. This isn't the best looking example I've ever seen, and normally you only get like 2 wide ones right here and not 4, but that was a crazy repair. You could also choose just to do a scarf joint and put a whole new headstock on the guitar. But most people just opt for the glue and then a refinish to kind of hide it. Or they'll do a combination of splines and the refinish. But splines can be kind of hard to hide, but sometimes they actually look pretty cool. Like it's an art form all in itself. So I really think this one is just a couple of cosmetic appointments and maybe shaving it down a little bit more away from being a great repair. Because it looks like it sticks up right here, but then again, this part looks like it's been rounded off a little bit better, and that's where you play anyway, so does it really matter? So it looks like it was executed well enough, but wasn't given a big budget to make it look, like it's brand new again. They left that for someone else. Oh my, and they put rosewood in there. Okay, that's interesting. Why would they do that when it's mahogany? And yep, all the parts were changed except pots and knobs. I thought those pickups looked a little bit weird. So they put a bunch of cheap stuff in this just to sell the guitar. So they took all the original Gibson stuff out of this, as far as the expensive stuff. So I guess now that I know all that, and they wanted $120 shipping on top of that, your $500 guitar just now became $600. But who knows how much they accepted an offer for this on it. But you also have to remember there was no case at all. If there was a case on this, that case itself was worth $200, and that would have made this a steal. But not having the case, not having any of the Gibson electronics, that made me shy away from purchasing this one, because I thought it would have been fun to document just to see if it actually plays any good. But sometimes these repaired guitars, when you buy them sight unseen online, they're pretty rough when you get them. But this would have been a perfect Trey Tuesday-like guitar, because we would only be on episode 3 or 4 of that new season, and we would already have a Gibson Les Paul Standard double cut. But they're saying they priced it 1/3 of retail because of the repairs. Honestly, I would say they priced it almost at 1/4, but all those reasons we were just talking about, I could see why somebody wanted this. They have stuff laying around to upgrade it with, or they want to try their hand at refinishing it. It was very tempting because that is a very affordable price point for a true Les Paul Standard. But since we've got some time left today, I had somebody send me this, a Canadian-made guitar for $160 Canadian. If this was local, I would buy it for $125 because it's just so logical looking. It's just a Gibson Moderne that has likely been made in China, would be my guess, but they just put Vancouver, Canada on the back of the headstock. And it looks goofy. It doesn't look anything like a real Gibson Moderne from the 80s, like you can see that over here. The body shape is just so bad. It's good, you know? It's like you can't look at this guitar without laughing at it. Now, granted, it looks like they got the headstock okay for at least the 80s version, and they've branded it Logical, which it's okay for a guitar brand name. And Modernes, you could check out this video if you want to learn all about the Modernes. I've documented one of each of the main colors from the 80s run, but they have this goofy Gumby headstock, and yeah, you have to use some wizardry over here in order to get the strings to go in on the nut on at least a semi-what straight angle, but that's just how they are. So thank you for sending this in. Unfortunately, it would not be worth the cost of shipping it to here, but hey, if you're in Canada, somewhere around this place, look them up on Facebook Marketplace. It could be fun for a couple of bucks. And for our last one today, since we've got just a little bit of time, another Medallion Flying V showed up. You know, with those Carina Flying Vs coming out, people dropping $20K, not even thinking about it on those because, you know, they're instant collectibles. They're going to be worth more very soon, most likely. This timeless piece of Gibson history is less than that, and yet it's not going to sell as fast. So the Medallion Flying Vs, they were done to commemorate the Olympics. We've talked about them before on the show, and I really think we're going to get a reissue on these within the coming years because we saw that teased in the Cesar Goikian collection. And I would really like to get one of these on the show. It used to be one of the most expensive guitars that I ever pined for. But the thing with these is most of them have headstock repairs or have been modified in some way. The 3 big sins on these are headstock repairs, adding pickup rings to the original pickguard, to a lesser extent cracks on the pickguard. And the biggest one for me is swapped out tuners. And the reason why I hate swapped out tuners on these is because even if you do restore them back to original style double ring Clusons, you're always gonna be left with the remnants of usually the Grovers that somebody puts on here. Not on the back of the headstock, but the large washers that they have. And it ruins the entire vibe for the guitar, in my opinion. That's why, you know, this one, it's clean for the most part. I mean, it's been spared of headstock repairs anyways, but that tuner made me very sad because I would like to get one of these on the show. I mean, I can live with some wear and tear, but generally the cleaner the better, but not too clean. Too clean kind of scares me. But if you are in the market for one of these Medallion Flying Vs and you don't care about the swapped out tuners, everything else looks okay for the most part. You even have matching medallions at number 338. So I thought I would let you know this is available at $19,000 plus $150 shipping. These things generally range anywhere between $15,000 to $25,000 depending on your condition, how many's on the market, how clean and what issues it has. I remember I almost bought one for $15,000 one time, but I decided against it. All right, troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.